Hello guys, welcome to the training video of time management. And in this particular video, we'll be focusing on the training of the time management. So the core focus will be on how to utilize your time more effectively, learning about the different time management techniques, and going through a different kind of a slides to get you familiarized with the time management. So let's dive into the course. And before we start with this particular presentation, let me request you to go ahead and subscribe to my channel online trainings. So where this video is posted, so you can just go to the channel name, click on the channel name online trainings, and after that click on the subscribe button. So you will be able to subscribe to my channel that way, and going forward you will get all the required intimations for whatever training videos gets uploaded on this particular channel. And also you will be able to maintain the future bookmark that way, so whenever in the next time you want to traverse back to this particular series of trainings, you can come back and you can even check the past videos which are lying in this particular channel. Okay, so please do that. And also, if possible, give a like if you like this particular video. Now let me start diving into this particular presentation on time management, which is a very interesting aspect as it helps in increasing the productivity overall for the individual and for the organization as well. So these are the few of the outlines of this particular presentation. I will try to break this particular whole presentation in two videos. And in the very first video, we will be covering what is time management. In short, I'll be calling it as a TM. And then why TM is important, why it's needed, TM generations, and the TM process. So this in this particular video, we'll try to cover what is TM, why TM is important, TM generations, and couple of TM process also we'll try to cover that. And then other remaining process we'll try to cover in the next video, along with the FAQ on time management and tools for the time management. So this is going to be a very interesting presentation as it will definitely affect your productivity in wherever you are working, and in your day-to-day life will also get more productive, and you will be able to have more time for the different activities. Okay, so before we move into the next slide of what is TM, let me impose the same question to you guys. What is time management? What do you think what time management is all about? What it stresses on, and how you can use your time more effectively? So just keep thinking about it, and then I will just move on to the next slide. So the kind of a question you should ask about is like, what is time management? How can I manage my time more effective? What are the good ways of managing my time, and how can I get more activities done in a lesser amount of a time? And those are the quite relevant questions which one must ask to increase his own productivity, because that has a lot of advantages. It makes your performance increases a lot if you are giving a more output at wherever you are working, or in a wherever if you are able to keep your commitments with respect to the time, then obviously the people will start liking you more. Okay, so just to give a thought on that, and let's move on to the next slide where I'll be addressing what is time management. Okay, all right, so here actually the answer is that time management is the act or the process of planning and exercising the conscious control over the amount of a time spent on a specific activities, especially to increase the effectiveness, efficiency, or the productivity. Okay, so basically it is the process, okay, of planning and exercising the conscious control over the amount of time spent on the specific activities. So here, like, you are not just taking the as in how the activities comes to you, you are addressing it that way. You are not going, you are planning it out, that these are the things which I would like to get it done. So you will try to figure out which are the high priority activities as per your goals which you have set up. Okay, and then accordingly you will take up the activities, and you will try to focus on that. You will apply the conscious control, as it's mentioned here, over the amount of a time spent on the specific activities, and you will not give more time to those activities if they are less relevant to your goals. And then you will try to increase your effectiveness, efficiency, or the productivity. So that is exactly the time management is all about. Now the time management stresses more on the direction rather than the speed. Okay, so one thing which I would like to apply more emphasis is that whenever you are talking about the time management, first make sure that the direction is more important rather than a speed. Like say for example, if you are going via train and you want to reach to a destination which is located in a north direction, and if you are catching a train which is a south bounded, then where you will end up? Obviously not at the right side. Okay, you will end up going to the south directions, and you will be wasting more amount of a time that way. Even if you have caught the fast train, but still your speed will be much more slower than the slow train which was heading towards the north train. Okay, because you wanted to go in the north direction and you have took the train which is going in the exactly opposite direction, that is south direction. Even though the train was faster, but your speed doesn't matter because the direction is a more important than the speed. So that is just an analogy which I am giving. The same thing right now the coronavirus thing is going on. Right now what is more important is saving the life is more important. Okay, so that is the direction. Speed is not the important. Like if you are in a good health, then eventually you will be able to accomplish a lot of things which you may not be able to accomplish if you die, right? So that's why what I'm trying to stress is that the direction is always a more important rather than the speed. Now if you are in this particular situation where coronavirus is spreading everywhere, and if you continue going to the work in a crowded place without taking a precautionary measure, what will happen? Maybe you will be able to accomplish a more task in a 15 days. Your productivity may be higher than the others with respect to the person who is staying at home and not doing the work. But what will happen eventually, if you lose your life, then everything gets ended there, right? And if the other person saves his life in this particular 15 days, he passes away when the coronavirus gets into a control reasonably, and then if he starts with the precautionary measures, then he will be able to accomplish more things than the other person, right? So that's just some weird example which I thought of, and let me move to the next slide now. Why TM is important? So the very first thing is that everybody has a limited time in a day. Everybody has a 24 hours. Each hour is a 60 minutes and each minute has a 60 seconds. So the time is limited. There is nothing you can compromise on the time, and the time is always going to be limited. Time cannot be stored. If unused, it is a loss forever. Okay, it is not like something which you cannot store. Maybe the water reserve you can store, maybe the financial reserves you can store for the rainy days. The other things you can store it out. The food you can store, and all the other things, things whatever is the consumable goods are there, you can store it for the future use. But you cannot store the time. It just goes away. Okay, even if you are not doing anything, the time will keep going. The time will keep passing even if you are doing some productive acts. Okay, and if you are killing it in a some manner, then also the time will pass it out. Okay, so the time cannot be stored. That is the point which I'm trying to make. The next is that one's goals are usually multiple, sometimes conflicting, and not all the goals are of a equal priority. So you need to weigh your goals, like you have a multiple goals, and some of them are very crucial to you, some are conflicting with the other goals, and those goals are not of equal priority. Some may be of a high priority, some may be of a low priority, some may be of a medium priority, so that you can only judge what matters a lot to you, and you need to set your goals accordingly. So goals cannot be accomplished without the application of effort, and which requires the use of the time. So whenever you set any goal, it is going to get require some efforts. You need to put it up. If you want to learn certain skill, if you want to acquire, say for example, this time management video you are watching, so for that, if you want to acquire the skills of a time management, right? And if that is your goal, and if you are accomplishing that, then you have to spend the time, because that efforts of learning you have to put up, then only you can accomplish that goal of acquiring the time management skills, which will eventually affect a lot of your activities eventually, and a lot of productivity will improve eventually if you are acquiring this particular skill. So it is a kind of a sharpening the show. The self improvement skills are always like sharpening the show. Like when you sharpen the show, the woodcutter becomes able to cut the more trees out of it, compared with the other woodcutter who is just showing the trees, but he is not sharpening his saw. So he will be able to cut a lesser amount of trees with respect to the person with respect to the woodcutter who is sharpening his saw every day morning, and then he is applying the efforts of cutting the trees. So obviously he will be able to cut more trees. So the same way you need to keep sharpening your skills. Okay, the soft skills is one of the main area which is a generic everywhere. So that is a prime area, and that's the reason why these particular trainings, all the 7 videos which have been posted in these particular channels are on the soft skills related trainings, because these are a very important and a vital skills which is a common across all the industries. Wherever you go across, it will be useful to you. All right, so having said that, let me move to the next slide. Okay, why do we need the time management? So obviously, as I said, to save the time, that is obviously one advantage. Now, when I say save the time, I'm not storing the time. As I said earlier, the time keeps going on, but you are planning out the activities, so your focus remains on those activities, and that way you are saving the time. Okay, because you know that these are the things which you want to achieve in a day, and so first activity will put up the efforts, then once that is achieved, immediately your focus will go on to the next activity, and that way you will remain focused, and your time you will save it from getting it killed in other irrelevant activities. So the next is to reduce the stress. Like, what happens is that when a lot of things are in our plate and we haven't completed that and it remains unfinished, then it accumulates the stress also, because it creates the tension also, and we get stressed out with a lot of work needs to be done and I'm hardly having any time. So you get stressed out, and then you try to accomplish the things in a hurry, and then it doesn't get done the way you wanted to do it. So the quality gets affected, and your the work output gets affected. Basically, your performance gets affected. So it increases the stress because you yourself is not satisfied with the work which you have done, okay, or the work you accomplished. So third thing is that why we need TM is that to function effectively. So this is a very important aspect. Everybody wants to work effectively. Everybody wants to be a productive in today's world, competitive world, and everybody wants to make sure that whatever things they are doing, they are effective. When I say effective means is that the end result which you are producing, that are acceptable to the person for whom you are doing it. So maybe if you are in a business and if you are doing certain activities or providing any services, then effective word gets applied when your output matches with the customer's expectations. Okay, so the customer is having a certain expectations, and if you are meeting that, if your services are in a line with that or in a sync with that, then that can be get called as a effectiveness. Okay, so when you want to optimize any organization, there are three things on which you focus. One is efficiency you focus, and the second thing is the effectiveness. Okay, so efficiency, when I say, you try to do a lot of things in a lesser amount of time, so you want to be more efficient with your that way. You want to do a lot of things in a lesser amount of time, so that is the efficiency. The organization's productivity gets measured that way. So if you want to optimize the organization, you need to make sure that your organization produces a lot of things in a lesser amount of time, so you invest in the capital goods and all, so that way your productivity increases. Then next thing is like, when you talk about the effectiveness, it is the customers expectation, whether whatever activities your organization is doing, is it effective to the customers needs. That is the one thing, so that needs to be there. Okay, and so these are the quite a few things. Then let's focus into the increasing our work output. So that is, again, I talked about the efficiency. It's nothing but the same. To increase our work output, we want to have the knowledge of a time management, to have the more control on our lives. Okay, so everybody wants to be in a control of the life. Everybody has their own goals in a different domains of the life. Say there are like 4 domains you can broadly identify, like say mental, physical, social, and spiritual. So in a mental domain, everybody wants to increase their skills in a different areas. Everybody wants to improve in the areas or in the subject matters where they are working every day. They want to acquire more and more knowledge, and they want to grow mentally. So that is a one domain. Then the second thing is a physically. So that means everybody wants to remain the fit. So they, you need to apply some efforts in a sharpening your fitness. So for that you need to put some amount of time in doing the regular exercises. So that is a very essential activity which you must have it in your planned activities. Okay. Third thing is, as I said, physically, mentally, and socially. So you want to build a good relations with the people. So you want to spend some time with the people at different levels in building the relationships with them. So that is also again one activity. And as we go further, I will give you some of the tips how you can, club your a couple of things parallelly. Like say, for example, if you want to build a good relationship with your child, then whenever you are going for a walk, take him along with you, so that way you can do the walk also, and same time you can talk with him, and you can take start taking interest in his things which he is doing, and that way you can build a good relations with your child also. So those two activities you can merge, and that way you can utilize your time more effectively. So that's just a one tip. Then last is like a socially. So even the financially is also you have to set the goals. So to make sure that your financial condition remains well, you remain the wealthy enough to meet any of the urgency needs which arises during the rainy days. Okay, so that part also you need to take care of. And the last is spiritually. So everybody wants to grow even the spiritually, because that helps in maintaining the overall balance. And whenever any upset comes in your life, any kind of trauma or any kind of traumatic situation comes up at that time, if you are spiritually strong, then you can easily overcome that. So for that also you need to spend some time on your spiritual activities as well. So you need to maintain a balance of goals between all these five domains, and that's how the time management will be discussing as we go further in the next slides. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, time management generation. So here I'll be discussing about the history of the time management, the way the time management was scientifically got invented actually. And you cannot the way like the other areas, subject areas are there, the same way time management also has been scientifically studied up. And then different time management generation people came up with the new theories, and that's what they call it as a time management generation. So historically the first generation came up in which they have just came out with the reminders based on a clocks and a watches, so that kind of a solution they have provided for the time management, that you need to have the reminders based on the clocks and watches, but with the computer implementation possible can be used to alert a person when a task is about to be done. So the earlier they used to note it down on the jot down on the paper, piece of a paper, that at this particular time these things needs to get done. That kind of a reminders they were setting up. Then with the computer implementation, now you get the alerts. On your mobile you get the alerts, or on your email you get the alerts. So those kind of things have been improvised. In a second generation, what they come out is with that reminder is only not only the thing, that so in first generation they were just doing it based on the normal activities which you were planning to have it, but in the second generation they say that the planning and preparation is required. If you want to implement the time management in a correct manner, then you need to plan out what you want to do. And that planning and preparations based on a calendar and appointment books includes of the setting of the goals. So they have come out with that idea that these are the first you need to do the goal setting, and then based on that you need to plan out your activities and that kind of a things. In a third generation, what they come out is that not only the planning is essential, but then you need to prioritize that the goals cannot be same at all the levels. You need to prioritize which goal is more important to you with respect to the other goal, and based on that the activities which you are planning for that particular goal needs to be at high priority. And also they have come out with other things like critical path method and a PERT diagrams, and all those things they have come out in the planning to figure out that what all activities are falling on the CPM. If you are carrying out any project, then project has a n number of activities, and some activities are dependent on others, so they create the path based on a each for like from project start to end, if like say 8 different activities are happening in a parallel, so 8 different paths will get created, and then on each path there will be multiple activities. Okay, so then out of each path, like which path is taking the maximum amount of time, that gets called as a critical path. Okay, and then they try to figure out how much effort needed for that, because that is the longest duration, and your project start and end time gets decided based on that. And also if any activity gets fallback, or it's like it gets delayed, then that can impact your whole schedule of the project. Okay, so the CPM is a very critical and the whole time management planning side. Okay, for the project planning. So then they come out with the prioritizing. So these are the activities which are falling on a CPM are a more high priority, and we need to have to make sure that those activities doesn't get delayed. So that was the idea for prioritizing. And controlling, using a personal organization, other paper based objects or computer or PDA based system. So then there were some tools which were invented, like digital organizers which were invented, and people were using that during third generation. Those things, when the computers were not there, then eventually computers came, and then the softwares were built on that, like MS Project kind of a tools came up, and people started switching from the organizers onto the PC based activities. Okay, then the tablets and all those PDA systems came, and now we also have those some of the softwares are available, some of the apps are available, which we use it on the tablets for the managing the time effectively. Now this was about the daily basis. This approach implies spending time in clarifying the values and priorities. So this was about third generation. Now in fourth generation, what happened is that being efficient and proactive using any of the above tools was important actually in fourth generation. So okay, so what they came out there replaces the goals and roles as the controlling element of the system and favors the importance over the urgency. So in fourth generation, they are clearly segregated that these are the activities which are important and these are the activities that are urgent, but they are not important. So they have divided all the activities in a 4 different quadrants, you can call it. First quadrant is like urgent and important activities. Second quadrant is like non-urgent but important activities. Third quadrant is like non-urgent important activities, and fourth is like non-urgent and non-important kind of activities. So as we go further on this particular slides, we will see that in a detail the Eisenhower method of the time management, which falls in the fourth generation. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. I'll be discussing here about the time management processes. Okay, so in this particular video, we'll restrict it till step 2. That is the first step. We'll see how to create an effective environment, and second is how to set the priorities and goals. Okay, the other things we'll cover in the next video. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Creating an effective environment. So get organized the triage of a paperwork and of tasks. So basically the idea is if you are organized, then you are creating a kind of a very effective environment. You don't have to waste the time in finding out the things, like say if you have kept everything properly organized, if you have kept your things at its a proper place, then you won't lost more amount of a time in finding that and searching that. Okay, now protecting one's time by insulation, isolation and delegation. So this get organized, let me put one more point here. Even when you are visiting the websites and all, we are now they are provided in the browsers, the bookmarks they have provided. The way in the YouTube or this particular channel they have provided, if you want to maintain the bookmark, you need to subscribe to this channel, right? So to this particular channel, online trainings, and you can click on a subscribe. So that way you will be able to maintain the bookmark, and you can see any of the trainings, the past trainings or the future trainings that way by being the organized. Okay, the same way in the browsers also, the Internet Explorer or the Google Chrome, they have provided the bookmarks. You can categorize those bookmarks based on your you can create your own folder, and for like say soft skills related one folder you created, and under that you can mark the address of this particular address, the YouTube video address URL, you can save it, okay, as a bookmark. So that way you can get organized with respect to the surfing. Okay, which will be very useful when you want to identify something, like say after 4 months or 6 months, we tend to forget. But if you have maintained the bookmark category wise, then it will be easily locatable. Okay, so let's move on to the next point: protecting one's time by insulation, isolation, and delegations. So here the idea is, whatever things you can delegate it to your juniors, you must delegate it. Okay, and that is the beauty actually of the management, because you want to save your time for having a higher bird's view of the things which are happening in under you, like so that high level view you want to always maintain. So for maintaining that view, if you, it's a good idea that you don't get dragged into the lower level activity. If you will get dragged into any lower level activity, if you try to do it on yourself, then what will happen is that your focus will shift from the high level view to the low level activity. Okay, and then somebody is needed, to maintain that particular high level view. So that will get lost, and then there will be then nobody will be there to take care of that part. So it is a very important and essential, being in a any management position, that you remain focused on the high level thing. Okay, and let's delegate all the things, whatever you can delegate it to your team members, unless and until it is a very much critical, and if you have to do it yourself, then only get into it. Otherwise, I will advise you should always try to protect your time by delegating it. You try to be isolated from the issues which your team members are coming up to you. You try to tell them, tell them clearly that it is your job to find out the solution for it. And I mean, wherever you can provide any guidelines, you go give it to them, but don't do all the work from them. Okay, it's their job, and let them do that. Achievement through the goal management and through the goal focus, the motivational emphasis. So you can only achieve if you set the goals. Okay, so the setting of the goals is a very important, and that basically rolls down, the thing starts getting rolled out if you set the goals. So if being in a higher management position, you must set the goals for your subordinates, and then you keep maintaining your focus on those goals. Okay, and so there is something they call it as a management by objectives, which is a very famous practice nowadays. So you set your goals based on your objectives, and then you move on from that. Okay, and you keep controlling your activities, and you just get into the execution phase immediately after you set your goals and objectives. Okay, now recovering from the bad time habits, the recovery from underlying psychological problems, for example procrastination. So procrastination is a very bad idea. If you can do a certain things today, then try to do it today itself. Don't try to procrastinate it. If you acquire that habit, then I will say you must put up the efforts in changing that habit, because that can create a lot of damage to you in your career. And believe me, whoever has got into this habit, they have really repented it later on, because they have some point of a time they have really felt, that if I would have done this thing earlier, then I wouldn't have got into the stage where I am currently got stuck. Okay, so that is the way for you need to recover from your bad time habits. Okay, now step two is setting the priority and goals. So there are four basically methods which goes on right now. The ABC analysis is a quite popular. Pareto analysis is there. The Eisenhower. The Eisenhower method is the very famous method, and that's how every fourth management, time management happens. So you need to be aware of that. The four quadrants which I was talking about, that falls in this. The POSIC method, the prioritize by organizing, streamlining, economizing, and contributing. So that's in short, they call it as a POSIC. Prioritize by organizing, streamlining, economizing, and the contributing. So let's check it out, all of them. First is the ABC analysis. It is a simple technique that has been used in a business management for a long time. It's the categorization of a large data into the groups. So how you categorize? These groups are often marked as A, B, and C, hence the name is ABC. Activities are ranked upon these general criteria. A are the tasks that are perceived as being urgent and important. Okay. B are those tasks that are important but not urgent, and C are those tasks that are neither urgent nor important. So each group is then a rank ordered in priority. To further refine the priority, some individuals choose to then first rank all B items as either A or C. Okay, so ABC analysis can incorporate more than three groups. So sometimes what happens in some companies, they say that B activities you split it back again into the A or C. Otherwise, normal practice is that the individuals break the task in either categorize them as A, B or C. A if it is urgent and important, B is if it is important but not urgent, and C is of non-urgent and non-important. So this is the basically the ABC analysis. Let's move on to the next one. Pareto analysis. Now, this is the idea that 80% of the tasks can be completed in a 20% of the disposable time, and the remaining 20% of tasks will take up your 80% of the time. So it is kind of a Newton law kind of thing. So they call it as a Pareto analysis, and this principle is used. Some people also call it as a 80-20% principle, and this principle is used to sort the task into two parts. According to this form of Pareto analysis, it is recommended the tasks that fall into the first category be assigned a higher priority. Okay, so so the tasks, in as per the Pareto analysis, it recommended the tasks that fall into the first category be assigned a higher priority. Okay, so that you need to identify which are the most important tasks. Okay, and which consumes a lot of our time, but if it is important, then it needs to get done. Okay, within a time. The next point is that 80-20 rule can also be applied to increase the productivity. It is assumed that 80% of the productivity can be achieved by doing the 20% of the task. Similarly, 80% of the results can be attributed to the 20% of the activity. If productivity is the aim of the time management, then these tasks should be prioritized higher. Okay, so here it is said, the 80-20 rule for improving the productivity. So I'll try to explain it. So what happens is that your in the organization, like lot of activities keep happening, but out of that, if you will see, only 20% of the activities are making the 80% revenue contribution for the organization, and remaining 80% activities are basically you can't call it as useless, but it is a very less efficient kind of activities and which hardly contributes to the 20% of your revenue. Okay, so you need to figure out what are those activities clearly, and then you try to remove those activities, so that way you will be able to achieve a lot of a higher productivity in your organization. Okay, so that is the point which I'm trying to make to the Pareto analysis. Let's move on to the Eisenhower method. Now, this is a very important method. So let's focus here. Uh, as you can see here, there are divided into the urgent and important. So vertically it is urgent and non-urgent, and horizontally it is important and a non-important. Now this is the first quadrant, as you can see here. This is the second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. Now you can see this particular has been highlighted because this quadrant is the one where the important and non-urgent activities are going lying, and they are very critical actually. And most of the successful organization, they spend 70 to 80% of their time in this particular quadrant, important and non-urgent. Okay, so that is the scientific study. The urgent activities, I will just give you the example. Like say if baby is crying, or there is a fire in a kitchen, or some calls are coming, then you have to attend that. So those are the urgent activities, but you have not planned it for it, and for any of your goals. Okay, so they are urgent and important kind of things, because you have to attend that. Like if a baby is crying, then you cannot avoid that. Next quadrant is a not urgent and important. So here, like you have planned some of the activities, like for your health, you have planned the exercise activities. Then you wanted to do some planning kind of a work, so that you wanted to do the planning, so that you activity you have kept here. Then vocation kind of a thing. So all those things, whatever false, that is important but non-urgent. Okay, now in a non-important and urgent, the interruption, distraction, other calls, whatever is coming, your colleague is distracting you, is asking for immediate help, or something is interrupting you, so those are the urgent and non-important. It is not adding value to your productivity, but it is adding value to your colleague, so maybe for building the relationship with him it may help, but eventually it is just a non-important activity for your performance. Then the last is non-urgent and non-important. So any trivia if you are doing, like a crosswords, you are filling the time. All these are a time wasters, busy work. TV shows you are watching, which is not adding any value to your growth or anywhere. That is all the non-urgent activities. Okay, so let's move on to the, so after understanding this particular thing, you must understand that this particular quadrant is a very important, your important and a non-urgent, where you plan out all the things for building, sharpening your skills, for learning. Everything goes here. The efforts which you put up for a learning, the effort which you put up for planning all the other activities, the exercise which you do. So for building the relationship with the people, whatever time you plan to spend, all those things comes here. Okay, and this is a very important. So I will suggest you try to shift all your activities. You try to keep a track of your activities, that how much time you are spending in different ways, and then you try to shift them and try to set it as a goal. Like you want to spend more time in this important and non-urgent quadrant. That is a quadrant number 2. Alright, so having said that, let's move on to the step to see further. All tasks are evaluated using the criteria important, unimportant, and urgent, non-urgent, and gets put up in the quadrants accordingly. As I mentioned, tasks in the important, unimportant, and non-urgent quadrants are dropped. So this fourth quadrant things which is talking, that needs to get dropped. Okay, this fourth quadrant things, as far as possible, try to drop that. Tasks in important urgent quadrants are done immediately and personally. Tasks in unimportant. So this second thing is a second quadrant, the important and sorry, first quadrant, important and urgent quadrants that are done immediately and personally. The tasks in unimportant and urgent quadrants are delegated. You try to delegate those tasks. The this one third quadrant, urgent and non-important. And tasks in the important and not urgent quadrants get an end date and are done personally. So you must mark the end date. By this date you want to finish this particular task, and you must do it personally, the second quadrant task. So if you want to acquire any learning, you have to do it personally. If you want to improve your soft skills, you have to go through this video. There is no choice about it. So that falls in the important and non-urgent quadrant. Now this method is said to have been used by the US President Dwight D. Eisenhower. That's why the name has been given as the Eisenhower method, and this is a part of the fourth generation of a time management as well. Okay, let's move to the last method of a project, that is a prioritize by organizing, streamlining, economizing, and contributing. The method indicates a template which emphasizes on average individual's immediate sense of emotional and monetary security both. Okay, so it suggests that by attending to one's personal responsibilities first, an individual is a better position to shoulder collective responsibilities. Okay. Inherent in the acronym is a hierarchy of a self-realization which mirrors the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, so there was a hierarchy of needs which theory is a very famous from the Abraham Maslow, and based on that, this self-realization theory, this whole thing has been created. Okay, so, as I mentioned here, it suggests that by attending the one's personal responsibilities first, an individual is a better position to shoulder the collective responsibilities. Okay, so coming here, prioritize, P for prioritize your time and define your life by the goals. So again, this method also insists on setting up the goals, and you need to define the time and your life also by the goals. Okay, the organize the things you have to accomplish regularly to be successful, the family and finances. So in the further slides, I will show you, for the goals, we will see it in a detail, like how you should design your goals and all. So we'll focus more on that. The organized things you have to accomplish regularly to be successful, the family and finances. The streamlining, things you may not like to do but must do, the work and course. Okay, so you need to streamline yourself with the changing situations. Okay, it's very important. Okay, it is very, very important that you must adopt. You must streamline yourself with the things which matters the most, whether you like or you don't like. You don't have a choice. So that's how it should be. Economize things you should do or may even like to do, but they are not pressingly urgent. The pastimes and socializing, so that things should come later, and they contribute by paying the attention to the few remaining things that make a difference, the social obligations. So that also is trying to cover. So this is how the first is a prioritize, organize, and streamline, the economize, and the contribute. So this is about the project method. So in this video we'll pause here and let me just show you what all things we have covered first in the outlines. So what is time management we have covered, why TM is important, why it's needed, that we have covered. Four generations of time management we have covered, and in the time management process is a couple of processes we have covered, and the remaining process we will see in the next video, and also the fact that is frequently asked questions on time management and the tools for the time management we'll see in the next video. So please be stay tuned, and as I mentioned in the very beginning, please subscribe to my channel. The channel name is Online Trainings. When you click on that channel name, you will see the subscribe button, so click on that. And also, if you like this video, please click on the like, so the others will also come to know that how many people have liked this video. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you.